Hello, my dear friends. I'm your host, Samantha, and welcome to the Mooncast. How are you today? I hope you're well. Because Halloween or Samhain or whatever you may refer to it as is fast upon us, I thought I would take a moment to talk about ancestor worship. Ancestor worship is a very important part of a lot of the festivities that surround holidays like Halloween, Dia de los Muertos, and Samhain. But ancestor worship can be tricky for many of us. One issue you might face is that perhaps your more immediate ancestors were not necessarily the best people. When we think of ancestors, we think of our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, perhaps aunts and uncles. And in some cases, it may be uncomfortable erecting an altar and trying to communicate with these folk. Another issue that we face, especially here in America, is that many of us might not know our ancestors. We may not know where they came from. The first solution that I'd like to offer is to consider your ancestors from the ancient past. As with nature, many of their struggles are universal and are relatable even today. For example, when the pandemic began, I told myself, well, if my ancient ancestors can survive a plague, so can I. And as I sit here today, recording this podcast, smoke from wildfires has enveloped where I live. It's so bad that the air quality is considered hazardous. I know that my ancient ancestors also endured things like wildfires. They endured things like scarcity. They endured the elements and weather. They had the resiliency and the wit to overcome these things, and had they not, I would not be here today to tell you all this. And though I may not have known them personally, I take comfort in knowing these things. It gives me strength each and every day. As I said previously, if you live in America, you may run into the issue of not knowing where your ancestors came from. I will say that modern DNA tests make this a little bit easier to uncover. If someone is interested in paganism but doesn't know where to start, and they do a DNA test, my suggestion is to always look to those cultures from where you are genetically from. If you understand how they lived, you can better understand the struggles they faced and how your ancestors most likely face the same struggles that you do today. You don't have to know your ancestors personally to ask them for guidance. And you don't have to know them personally to honor them. I feel it's important to warn against becoming ethnocentric. After all, many cultures throughout history have blended and merged to create new cultures, and the cultures of today are vastly different than they were in ancient history. For example, there is very little known about my Nordic ancestors and how they practiced their spiritual beliefs. Though there are certainly those who would claim to have the answers to all those questions. But one thing for sure is that my ancestors faced a lot of the same struggles that I do today. These struggles, these themes are universal and have been experienced by most likely every culture on this planet at some point. And if you go back far enough, far back to the beginning, you will know that we all come from the same place, that we are all inhabitants of Earth, no matter how we look, what language we speak, or what gods we choose to worship, or none at all. I've said in the past that humanity likes to define things, to put them into little boxes so they can be better understood. But we are rarely so simple. We are much more complex than one culture, one area of the world, and one ancestor. I encourage you to look beyond your immediate ancestors to find inspiration for your ancestor worship rituals. As with most things, ancestor worship is more than an aesthetic. It is more than an altar. It is an understanding and a connection through generations upon generations. Ancestor worship is meant to give you strength and insight. As for my own ancestor worshiping practices, typically I will erect an altar with photos of loved ones that have passed. As I said before, I'll usually include some kind of symbol of past cultures that I am a descendant of. I will add food, especially food that my more recent ancestors enjoyed. In fact, one of my grandmothers was a very big fan of espresso, so I've even included a small espresso from one of our local stands on my altar. I encourage you to think outside the box when it comes to your own ancestral worship. Be creative. Think back. But most importantly, remember, it is more important to be a good ancestor than it is to be a good descendant. Generations in the future will look to you as an ancestor. Let's make them proud. So I suppose that's all I have to say about that today. If you listened to last week's Mooncast, you know that there have been some changes to my social media, specifically on Facebook, and I have had to create a new page. So if you are not following me there, I will provide a link below to the new page. And I'm also very excited to announce that I have unlocked, I guess, the community page here on YouTube, which is a very exciting thing for me. I will be posting YouTube exclusive content to that page. So if you'd like to be updated on that, make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel if you're listening on YouTube, of course. And if you're listening on Buzzsprout or Spotify, why not head over and subscribe to my channel? I would definitely appreciate the support. Thank you so much for coming today. and until we meet again.